got barbecue back there, and you didn't invite me. Hurt my feelings.
Welcome back to another episode of Trending Fantasy. I'm your host, John Bauer. Find me on X at the Bauer Club. I am happy to be joined once again by Mitch Sorensen, and that's at DynoMC on X. What's going on, Mitch?
I'm back. Great vacation, ready to get back into the grind. The best part is, like, I have a Jamaican vacation coming up in November, so I could even be like excited for that, even though I just came off a vacation. Like, dude, it's a good life, man.
I'm so happy for you.
You should be. Yeah,
I'm just so happy for you.
Just live through me, really.
I will live vicariously through you. But we do, before your next vacation comes up here, we have a little bit of time. But we do have a few things we want to talk about this week. Speaking of trending, there are some news items to discuss, some signings, some relevant signings. And we are going to sit here and try to figure out exactly how relevant those signings are going to be and the impact they're going to have, not only on the players that signed, but the rest of the players, whether it's in a respective backfield or, in Aaron Rodgers' case, the rest of that Steelers offense. Make sure you hit like. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. We appreciate each and every one of you that tunes in on a weekly basis. Again, I always say the DD fantasy football community is just absolutely fantastic. So without further ado, J.K. Dobbins to the Broncos. Mitch, I was looking at the list of players over the last, I think it was since 2020, running backs that have signed in June. Okay. Running backs that have signed in June. And as you can see, I'm scrolling, trying to find it here. But it wasn't a pretty list. No. It wasn't a pretty list at all. So when we're talking about, these signings in J.K. Dobbins and Nick Chubb, here we go. Thank you. I was able to stall. June running back signings since 2020, Mitch. In 2024, we didn't have any. 2023, Sony Michel. He retired shortly after signing 1 year,
remember that.
$1 million. 2022, Jerick McKinnon. He's the outlier here. Jerick McKinnon, 17 games, 11.5 points per game in PPR formats that season, but a lot of it came at the tail end of the season. If you remember, that was a stretch where he popped off like back-to-back 25, 30-point games. Darrell Williams, 5 games, 4.2 points per game. In 2021, Gus Edwards went back to the Ravens, 2-year deal, $10 million, tore his ACL in September. So that's a little unfair to include, like, hey, he was a bust. And then Rex Burkhead, 15 games, 7 points per game. So the list, and then there were none in 2020. The list isn't exactly thrilling, and I don't want to cast a wide net and say this is the route, this is the path, this is the life that we can expect from J.K. Dobbins and Nick Chubb. But Mitch, J.K. Dobbins, you're an R.J. Harvey guy.
I am. Love him.
How do you feel like this backfield is going to shake out? J.K. Dobbins, 1-year contract, just north of $2.7 million. It can go up to $5.2 million with incentives.
Yeah, I mean, I would love to say as an RJ Harvey fan that, hey, this doesn't affect him at all, but it does. I mean, J.K. Dobbins is a very good running back when he's healthy. It's just he doesn't stay healthy a whole lot, right? I do definitely, this isn't just like an RJ Harvey thing. You could put any of those running backs in this situation. Estime was a 5th-round pick, and he got 80 touches last year. Jalil was undrafted, and he got 130 touches last year. And Sean Payton immediately came out after the season. They were like, hey, we need more out of our running backs. It's one of the first things he said, besides like also improving at tight end. Those guys are just, they're kind of whatever pieces in the NFL. I mean, we could kind of like them for what the situation was last year. Now, J.K. Dobbins is immediately better than both of them. J.K. Dobbins might be better than R.J. Harvey. But in my opinion, a 1A, 1B punch with those two players, I think actually works extremely well. R.J. Harvey was never going to walk into this season and get 300 touches. I highly doubt he was going to get 200 touches. You know, he's probably a 175, 190 touch guy. You give about the same to J.K. Dobbins. All of a sudden, you have a pretty good backfield there. It's just Estime and Jaleel just don't give you enough, in my opinion. So for me, it's a great signing for the Broncos. Yes, it does hamper RJ Harvey's upside, but maybe this keeps him healthy for the whole season, because I just don't see them giving those two the ball over RJ Harvey. But I do see him giving J.K. Dobbins the ball quite a bit, to be honest.
You see a lot of comparisons already. Hey, it's that the new age Alvin Kamara and Mark Ingram. That's the way it's going to play out. And you look at the backfield, I certainly think these teams, they need depth in their running back rooms. It's the most not only volatile position for dynasty and fantasy purposes, but also across the NFL. You cannot feel comfortable if you're the Denver Broncos going in with RJ Harvey, a rookie, even though we all like him, a rookie nonetheless, Jaleel, Michael Burton, Audric Estime. That's not a recipe for success. This offense, there's a very good chance, and I hope it plays out this way, but we get a very concentrated fantasy output from Evan Ingram, Cortland Sutton, RJ Harvey, and then you can sprinkle in J.K. Dobbins.
Yep.
So I do think it's going to be a 1A, 1B situation. Is it ideal for RJ Harvey? I mean, would we have preferred to keep it Jaleel, Estime, and RJ Harvey? Yes, absolutely. But J.K. Dobbins, I went through that very short list. It's a very small sample size. We don't typically see running backs sign in June that really make a material difference. But J.K. Dobbins, like you said, Mitch, when he's healthy, he can be good enough. But as the season went on last year for the Chargers, things kind of fizzled a little bit, and he had that stretch. I remember there was a stretch in the season, and there was a conversation like, hey, not talking about a first, but would you trade 2 seconds for J.K. Dobbins? And it's like, I knew I wouldn't, but I know a lot of people did. Right. So the baseline, I always talk about the baseline, it's there for a player like J.K. Dobbins. And again, there was that stretch. It was at the start of the season, 135 yards, 131 yards. Then it kind of fizzled off a little bit. And then he missed a few games because of injury. But I don't think it's going to hamper RJ Harvey's production enough for people to really panic at all, for his price to drop, at least right now. Does it hurt to send an offer for RJ Harvey? We talked about this specifically, Mitch, in the episode post rookie drafts. If you want to trade for somebody, let's say you picked RJ Harvey, but he was there at the 112 and you drafted him. In my mind, I'm like, maybe Mitch didn't really want RJ Harvey. He just took him because he was there and it was a nice value. Maybe I can go out and try to acquire RJ Harvey at a discount. I know a lot of people are sending trade offers that kind of are geared towards that. J.K. Dobbins, maybe low end running back 3 production this year.
Maybe. Here was my thing. This is kind of the offer that I got stuck on. In a 12-team league, I was offered I was offered J.K. Dobbins for my Ray Davis. And at the end of the day, I think J.K. Dobbins could end up scoring more points than Ray Davis, fantasy points-wise, throughout the year. It's still not a trigger that I could pull, because J.K. Dobbins could give you 1 game. He could give you 17 games. He could give you 5 games. And I at least think Ray Davis has a chance. Hate to play the healthy card all the time with a guy like J.K. Dobbins. I think you have to do it. And so I know you have some trades up here to go through. And if Dobbins is cheap, more than happy to get him. If I have to give up anything of value, I'm probably just going to go elsewhere.
Right now in Fantasy Calc, he's wedged in between a 27-second and a 28-second. And, I always say there's an asterisk whenever you use Fantasy Calc, keep trade cut, whatever the case may be. So J.K. Dobbins, 26 years old, 3rd worst stuff rate last year. He was stuffed 54%, and that's from Fantasy Points. They have their little definition of exactly what stuff rate is, depending on the down and distance, and if there's a goal-to-go scenario. There are some variables there, but the 3rd worst, okay? So I am still very hesitant to go out and acquire J.K. Dobbins with the expectation that he is truly going to be fantasy relevant. Like I said, maybe high end or the ceiling of a low end running back 3.
Mhm.
And in your Ray Davis situation, because we're going to get to James Cook here in a minute, I think there's far too much contingent upside with a player like Ray Davis, but we'll get to James Cook here in a minute.
We will.
So I just want to throw a few trades at you, and I love this because it shows you the wide range of values that the Dynasty players will place on a player like J.K. Dobbins, and we see it anytime there is a change in situation. It's a very quick reaction. So we're going to work through these. These are trades almost in order on dynastydaddy.com. So Dobbins are 2 4th-round picks, 12-team Superflex, start 11. Dobbins are a 26th third.
Dobbins.
And then we get Dobbins or a 26th second.
Take the second every day. Yep.
So that's kind of the range, and I'm right there with you, Mitch. I will move the future third for Dobbins, especially a few of those were start 11. So if I can get the additional depth piece there. But again, temper your expectations. Ultimately, we don't think it's going to impact RJ Harvey all that much. Not a good sign for Jaleel and Estime if you were hoping that they could get some running back 2 production. I say running back 2 in terms of the Denver Broncos backfield. So we would move the third. Would you move 2/3?
Probably not.
Okay.
I had a hard time doing the 1/3, to be honest with you, but it's, there is some upside there. What happens if Harvey goes down and Dobbins can somehow stay healthy? Then all of a sudden you're like, well, I'll pay a lot more than that. So the 1/3 I could definitely do.
Yeah, I don't know if we'll quite be at a 50-50 split in the run game. I think Harvey still edges Dobbins out.
Yeah.
But I think the real advantage is Harvey in the receiving game.
Oh, without a doubt.
So I think that gives you enough to bolster his production there and hopefully leads to the high value touches. Going over, we're not going far from me, Mitch.
Nope.
Rodgers, 1 year
team.
in Pittsburgh, my Pittsburgh Steelers. And ultimately, I do think it's just 1 year. I know it's the 1 year contract, but I don't think we see anything beyond 25 whenever the time comes up.
Okay.
I think it's 1 year. The dude then is going to be 42 years old. Hopefully he has a solid season. But right now, quarterback 34 on Fantasy Calc, right before a 26 second, $13.65 million deal, can earn up to 19.5, 10 million guaranteed. I already said 41 years old. Are you willing to buy Aaron Rodgers if you need that either maybe a quarterback 3 or a quarterback 2 that you're looking to plug and play whenever possible?
What's the price I have to pay for that?
We got an offer in a league. I don't think you saw it, but I rejected it.
you usually do. 99% of the time, I don't see them.
I let it sit 2 days.
Oh, well, I wasn't fully prepared.
Listen,
to look at fantasy football.
if we get a trade offer in a co-managed league with a $25 fee where we each contribute $12.50, I expect that to take priority over Cancun.
I get it. I just like how you've changed this the last 3 weeks, because 3 weeks ago you would have just declined it and never even talked to me about the offer. But recently you've been willing to let me have an opinion on things.
And I still don't think you see it. But anyway, the offer we got in that league was a 27 second. We would move our 27 second for Aaron Rodgers. I declined it.
Yeah, I think that's fair value, to be honest.
Okay. So when we get into the trades, you would move a 27 third. You would move a 26 third and a 27 third.
Yes.
You would move the 26 second.
Yes.
And you would,
in that situation, I would. Because here's the thing. I know Rodgers wasn't great last year. I understand that. And I think he threw for had the second most pass attempts, or it was in the top 5 for sure. And that's not going to happen with the Steelers. They're definitely going to be run first. But I think, honestly, his points per game are going to be extremely close to what he did with the Jets, because I think the defense is going to put him in very good positions. I think everyone can hate Arthur Smith. I think as far as offensive coordinators go in the NFL, he's not bad as far as moving the offense. And so for me, I like Rodgers. I like Pat Freiermuth. I like DK Metcalf. I think it fits really, really well together. And there was as soon as the news was posted, someone asked you in the Discord. They were like, John, as a Steelers fan, they were like, what are your thoughts? And you went, it's a mediocre offense. I really don't care. Or something really, really close to that. And while I completely agree with that sentiment, I do think I like Patty F now. I like DK. And Rodgers as the 20th best fantasy scoring quarterback in the league. Is that huge? No. But having that as your quarterback 3 for a second, that's great. Because people are going to give that up to have a 2-week start in the playoffs if they can, because their starter gets injured.
Like, and I always talk about like the way I like to build my teams. Maybe Geno Smith is my quarterback 3. Maybe Matthew Stafford's my quarterback 3.
No, of course. Yeah. If I have those guys, then I'm not even touching Rodgers.
In a +6 passing touchdown league, does Aaron Rodgers, is it really that big of a discrepancy in production when you compare Stafford and Rodgers after the 25 season? I wanted
to bring that up, man. Like, I really wanted to, but I'm just like, Stafford is in such a good position.
I know.
That you just assume that he's going to score more points. But at the end of this year, if Rodgers scores more points than Stafford, I'm not going to be shocked. Do I think it's likely? No. But do I think there's a chance? Without a doubt.
And I think the price to acquire, it's certainly different.
Oh,
like you could get a plus with Aaron Rodgers if moving off of a Stafford. But again, this is if I'm in my quarterback 3. Now, if you're in a jam, if you've explored options, your quarterback 2, maybe you just had the startup. You took an anchor quarterback early. You took a top 5 quarterback. And I did this in a league. I faded, and things got so ugly. I was like, I still prefer the position players here. And maybe now that's a situation where I could explore adding Aaron Rodgers. But you said it, Mitch. I think the big beneficiary here, especially in like a heavier tight end premium league, Pat Freiermuth. Am I saying he's going to be a top 6 tight end? No. But you get to tight end 8 to 15, he's in that mix. And you feel a lot more confident. Like, compare this situation to a few weeks ago where we thought it was Mason Rudolph, DK Metcalf, George Pickens, and Pat Freiermuth. Now you remove one variable in George Pickens. You add Aaron Rodgers. You can hate him all you want. He's an improvement over Mason Rudolph. I just think overall it's still a middle of the pack team. And that's what I said.
It is. Yeah.
I don't think Aaron Rodgers elevates them enough. And now you got TJ Watt ready to sit out.
Oh, he's not sitting now. He'll be there.
We'll see. I trade him.
No one sits out anymore.
Let's trade him. Get him out of here. But I'm okay with Aaron Rodgers at his price. I would like to do it a little bit less than the 27 second, to be honest with you. But we're seeing those thirds. Maybe we revisit that 27 second offer, or I try to finagle our way into a discount.
I'm sure.
But yes, Pat Freiermuth, I like him at his price. DK Metcalf, I still haven't gotten fully invested. There's typically just other ways I want to go when we get to that price point.
Yeah, it's hard. He's a guy to where I didn't want to draft him, but now if he's on my team, I'm okay with it. But I'm never going to go out and be like, you know what? I want some more DK Metcalf shares on my rosters. But if he's there, I'm like, okay, at least he has a quarterback now. So I don't feel like it's kind of a wide receiver 3 is kind of where he's going to be stuck in my fantasy rosters all season. At least now there's some sort of hope.
He's still very difficult to move. And I don't have
impossible. Yeah.
I don't have that many shares, but we talked about this in the Discord earlier today. Whenever you talk about pivoting through certain tiers of wide receivers and you're looking to package up or tier down, and it's really difficult to add to Metcalf to get up or move Metcalf to tier down and get an additional piece.
Yeah.
All right. So Rodgers, could be a very dirt cheap option. Check your league. Depending on who has Aaron Rodgers, depending on the quarterback market, maybe you can get in that range of the third or 2/3. And those are trades that just went through over on Dynasty Daddy over the last 24 hours. So there are still those opportunities out there. I was getting zany with the little thumbnails here with the description. Chubb added to the mix in Houston.
I'm so proud of you for this one.
Oh my God. I sat there. I was like, this is gold, John. This is good. I need another hobby. I know that. I need some hobbies in my life. So Nick Chubb, he signs with Houston. He's valued running back 58 right now in fantasy calc, right before a 26th third. 1 year, $2.5 million deal. 29 years old. Over the last 2 years, he's played 10 games. Last year, obviously, production was down, efficiency was down, but coming back from the injury. So maybe we give him the benefit of the doubt. 2% of his carries last year went for at least 15 yards, minimal explosion. Jerome Ford was at 7%, eighth best among running backs with at least 100 carries. I talked about the stuff rate with J.K. Dobbins. Nick Chubb was actually a little worse. He had the second worst stuff rate at 55%. And then 1.96 yards after contact per attempt. That was the lowest among all running backs with at least 100 carries. Does Nick Chubb bounce back a little bit? Now, there's a lot of questions here, so be ready. Does Nick Chubb bounce back a little bit? Does he bounce back enough to limit Joe Mixon? And then what does this do to my man, Woody Marks?
Yeah, so the funny thing is when this signing happened, the discourse kind of like, oh, Woody Marks. It's I liked Woody Marks because of his receiving upside. Nick Chubb is not going to be on the field for receiving work. It's just not what he's good at. But he wasn't good last year. It's not like he was, below average. He was probably one of the worst running backs in the NFL last year. And maybe it was just an injury issue. I mean, it easily could be, but also he's had big injury issues with his legs. I'll just go that way with it. And he's
that goes back to college, right?
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, it was in college when he first wrecked it. And so now he's 29. And so for me, it puts a damper on if I have Joe Mixon on my teams right now. It's one of those to where hey, I could lock him in as a starter as long as he's healthy. I feel really good about it. It knocks down his upside a little bit because Nick Chubb's not going to get there to not get touches. But the Woody Marks play for me was never, oh no, Nick Chubb is joining the team. I'm going to knock Woody Marks down in value. It was, hey, if they're down late in games, Woody Marks could get some run, especially later in the season when I'm probably going to need those Woody Marks points more so than early in the season. And go ahead.
Not interrupt, but the only thing I will say, and I don't have the fancy flag like Dan does. But I will say the hope was not, I agree with that
was my hope. Not saying it's everyone's hope.
I know the potential receiving work, but if we went into the season with Joe Mixon, Woody Marks, Dare Ogunbowale, and Damian Pierce, the hope was if anything were to happen to Mixon, Woody Marks would get that elevated role. And we talk about the contingent upside with like a Ray Davis. Now Nick Chubb he's a roadblock.
It is without a doubt. But okay, Nick Chubb might not make the roster. I mean, it's $2.5 million. It doesn't mean anything in today's NFL. Even if they signed him for $3.5 million, it doesn't mean. Do I think he's going to make it? Yeah, but if it comes out mid-August, he doesn't like where he's at on the depth chart, and he wants to, go to a contender? I could easily see him being on 2 to 3 different teams this year, more so than like a J.K. Dobbins, to where I think he's going to be on the Broncos all year. I could easily see Nick Chubb bounce around a little bit. Just, Houston's not having a great year. Nick Chubb wants to go and play for a contender, and, someone adds him as the 4th running back.
So his cap number of 2.275 is below Justice Hill this year. It's below Rico Dowdle. It's below DJ Dallas, Zach Moss.
It's nothing to move on from that deal. It's not.
Now, I will say J.K. Dobbins, again, we look at the cap number, like that's low too. But I'm with you because we saw more from J.K. Dobbins and both kind of in similar situations, obviously, coming off the injuries. But I feel more confident that J.K. Dobbins can kind of put up that back end running back 3 production. Nothing to write home about, but I feel even less confident when it comes to Nick Chubb. But that Woody Marks, I do have that disappointment just because that contingent upside, I don't want to keep saying it, but it was there. And now there's just that additional roadblock. But you mentioned it with like a J.K. Dobbins. If anything were to happen to R.J. Harvey, that's J.K. Dobbins' show, and he gets a prime opportunity. Whereas if Nick Chubb gets the opportunity, we don't think he's going to be that involved in the passing game. Not that Dobbins is either,
right?
But I just don't know if we're going to see much efficiency from Nick Chubb. And there's question marks on how that offensive line is going to shape up this year.
I was just going to say, and then you're putting him behind that offensive line.
You know,
like I don't want Chubb on any roster. Kind of hurts my feelings with Mixon a little bit. I would love to be a little bit higher on him, but yeah, the whole Chubb ad, good for the Texans, I guess, but fantasy wise, I wouldn't even give a 4th for him.
I'd give a 4th.
No, I think I could do better, to be honest.
Because then it's like, keep your 4th, and can you go to waivers?
Can I do anything else? Can I get more fab?
I mean, honestly, yeah. So I'm with you. If I can get, I did my tier adjustment earlier today, and I hate it because like you know I love getting in the sheets. You
love the sheets.
I love the sheets. So like this time of year when there isn't much movement, I always feel bad. I'm like, there's nothing to update.
Yeah, there's nothing to do. No one's been arrested lately.
So every once in a while, I just like update the date at the top. I'm like, that's all I can really do.
Yep.
So I have Nick Chubb at that 26 or 27 third mark. So I'm okay moving him straight up for the 3rd. There's a deal where there's 2 thirds. Give me those because they're going to be more liquid throughout the season, obviously. And I really like the point. Not just like, is Nick Chubb going to be on the roster, but maybe he isn't happy with his situation. And like that kind of would be against character from what we see in here, but he's always had I'm the running back one. So he's never had to deal with it.
Yeah.
But like, he's not somebody that like, I don't think he complained at all last year, right?
No, I mean, he's at the point in his career now to a few, week 10, he decided, hey, I want to go try to play for the Chiefs and they'll let me do it. I don't think there's a team I don't think the Texans, if they're not doing well, it's going to be like, no, we're not going to allow that to happen. I mean, Nick Chubb has earned that to where, if that's how he decides he wants to go about it, good for him. I'm all about guys at the end of the career doing what they can to get that championship that they never had the chance because, the team they got drafted with was never good.
Yeah. All right. We got a disgruntled Cook out of the kitchen, maybe. And that is in Buffalo, James Cook. But surprise, Mitch. And you were being a smart ass in the Discord because you're so right. Yeah. These guys don't have leverage.
So he can't hold out. Rookies can't hold out anymore.
Like on their rookie deal. Yes. Like he's at the mandatory training camp. Mm-hmm. Is he or mini camp or whatever the name is, but how involved is he going to be there? Is he like off to the side? Like,
oh, I'm sure he's not doing a thing.
He's doing jumping jacks. So right now, running back 15 on Fantasy Calc. He's right before a 26-27 first. And we always talk about how the guys that have changing situations, their bubbles are extremely big on Dynasty Daddy. I think Aaron Rodgers is the most traded player right now. I don't think a player like James Cook is that highly traded right now, just because I think there's going to be a lot of low balls, right? We saw somebody jump in the Discord. Hey, would you move? When do you start to think about moving James Cook for a second? So James Cook, he's the 13th overall player right now over the last week in terms of trade volume. Aaron Rodgers up there, and then kind of the usual suspects like Chris Olave, Pickens, DK Metcalf. But we've spent, I couldn't tell you how many episodes talking about that.
One or two.
But James Cook, He goes 6.3 points per game his rookie year, 13.7 his sophomore year, 16.7 last year. He's entering his age 26 season. You know, a lot of people, they knock, well, Josh Allen, he gets a lot of that rushing work inside the 5. James Cook, not that it's like an elite number, but he had 48% of the team carries inside the 5 last year. That's actually higher than Jahmyr Gibbs, which isn't crazy to think about. No. Higher than Saquon Barkley. So, like, the touchdown rate was so high last year. Almost, 9%? He had 16 rushing touchdowns last year. Two in 2023. So I think we see it's hit somewhere in the middle. But James Cook, are you dropping his price at all?
Hey, here's the thing. I haven't been on James Cook, and I think we talked about him on a theory episode a while ago. But he had 16 touchdowns last year. Let me tell you what he improved on in the 24 season over the 23 season. There literally isn't anything because he downgraded everything. So attempts were less, yards were less, success rate in rushing was less. Let's see, let's keep going.
Total receptions.
Yeah, targets were less, receptions were reception yards were less, receiving touchdowns were less. I mean, everything went down except for he had a lot of more touchdowns. I mean, he went from 2 to 16, which is unheard of. Like, I could flat out guarantee you that's not going to happen this year. And so for me, I see, hey, a guy who was age 24, kind of liked him. Age 25, had that really big blowout year. These are not the backs that I buy into anymore. These are the backs I would have bought into 4 or 5 years ago with the hope of, hey, he's really going to turn on. He's really going to be elite. Or last year just happened to be the absolute perfect situation for him. He had a whole bunch of touchdowns, but everything else is more or less replaceable. And so while I'm not going out and buying Ray Davis thinking that James Cook is going to be out or not going to, have as much playing time this year, it's just not a back that I buy into at this point.
See, I actually think I am, I'm kind of neutral in terms of the value and where he is in the general market. But I'm not saying he replicates that 16 rushing touchdowns, but I still think the way this team wants to operate, especially on offense, they're going to heavily utilize the running backs. I think there's so much upside with Ray Davis if anything were to happen to James Cook. And I know what's the likelihood he misses any time due to the contract situation. 1%, maybe 2%. Yeah. But that's still in the back of people's minds. And I know there are going to be low ball offers. The general market, the trades that we see, and we'll talk about a few in a minute here, I don't know that you would see this type of value all that often. So it's going to be interesting to see. Yes, James Cook has been trading at a fairly high rate over the last week, but over these next couple days, over the next week, 2 weeks, depending on what kind of news comes out of camp, it's going to be interesting to see where people want to place their bet on him. Do we think he replicates? Do we think he gets an extension? So, Mitch, let me ask you, 12-team Superflex start 10, half PPR, extra half point for tight ends. James Cook or 27 first?
27 first.
James Cook and Ray Davis or a 26 first and a 26 third?
If I'm competing, I'll go the Cook side. If it's a rebuild, I'm going the first.
That is the structure, though. If you can get that package together, I always make the comparison. Like, if you get that situation in Monopoly, it's like, well, I only have Park Place or I only have Boardwalk, but you get both together. You start putting up those hotels. That's where the money's made.
And no one ever lands on them, and it's great. They always land on that luxury tax right in the middle, whatever it is.
Oh my God, the chance card or whatever.
Yep.
But isn't that kind of like a lot of Dynasty rosters, though? It looks pretty, but it never hits.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Story of my life.
Oh, man. This is completely not unrelated, but the Monopoly thing. I always like getting the yellow and the reds.
Yep. I like the greens. I don't know why. I've always liked the greens.
Yeah, you would be a green kind of guy.
Yeah, just is what it is.
Anyway, I would take the James Cook side. Now, if there's the expectation that 26 first could be somewhat early, I get it. But I'm far more willing to do the James Cook, Ray Davis trade than James Cook for the 27 first. And we talk about not just the hype of the 27 class, but more time and more room for more variance there.
Mm-hmm.
All right. James Cook or James Conner in a 26-second, 12-team Superflex Start 11 PPR.
This one's hard. Like, it's James Cook, but honestly, this is one to where I want to let it sit for a minute, because when James Conner's on the field, he has running back one upside every single week. And so I don't think James Cook really has that outside of his, improved touchdown scoring. And so for me, it's James Cook, but that one is honestly a lot harder than what it should be for what James Cook is 40 years old at this point.
So do you prefer the 26 first deal if you're acquiring James Cook, or the James Conner in the 26 second?
So here's my way of looking at it. If I have James Conner in a 26 second, I'm not sending it for James Cook. If I have James Cook, it's one of those, you know what I mean? I could see it's really hard for me,
because the running back room would come into play a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Do I have Saquon Barkley, let's say Saquon, Derrick Henry, Mixon, and James Conner? I'm not overly eager to try to upgrade it all there.
Yeah.
That's a kind of an older producing running back room that I kind of dig, to be honest with you.
I said, going into this, I'm just not a James Cook guy. I'm not.
Now forget about, so we said 1 or 2% chance he actually misses time because of this. Does he get extended?
I think so, probably.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I would think that he would, but it doesn't have to be this year, because they don't have to. That's the thing, is teams don't have to do it anymore.
Yeah. Wait until the season's over and see.
They could wait for the season's over. They could hit him with the franchise tag if they really want a running back, so it doesn't really matter.
Yeah. It's an interesting situation. We had news with the first three players, and then just kind of rumors and speculation with James Cook. And very quickly, because we talk about DJ Moore quite a bit, but DJ Moore, Mitch, he recently sold his condo, apparently.
Well, it happens. Yep.
I always laugh when these things come up. It happened with somebody else, and then something came out they bought a house instead.
Well, was it Ray Davis who sold his house in Buffalo? Because that came out. I went down if he was just moving houses.
that might have been it.
Yeah, whoever it was.
DJ Moore, a lot of people are hesitant in either acquiring DJ Moore or holding on to him, because they do believe that his production is going to continue to drop. 2 years ago, 16.9 points per game, 14 points per game last year. He's going right before a 26 first or 27 first on fantasy calc. He's wide receiver 27. Does what's going on right now with the rumors, and I kind of chuckle, but the body language, the talks with Ben Johnson, does any of that impact the way you feel about DJ Moore compared to, post NFL draft?
No, because for me, it's still, I want someone to talk me into wanting to buy DJ Moore at his price. And that's the hard thing for me. I was a huge Rome Odunze fan coming out, and I still think he's going to be good. I like Luther Burden coming out. Still think he's going to be good. They have Colson Loveland there. They have a lot of pass catchers there, and DJ Moore is getting close to that 30 mark, right? He's getting closer then. We know once that happens, that price just dives off unless you're a Devontae Adams type wide receiver, and DJ Moore just isn't.
Well, think about, even this was a talk in the Discord today too. Again, drop the like, hit subscribe, go over to ddfantasyfootball.com, an upgraded Trinity tool, the War Machine, my cross-positional tiers, and an incredible DD Fantasy Football Discord community. But another conversation that happened today was, think about A.J. Brown. Fantastic production. He's that first wide receiver when you go down the rankings for dynasty purposes. He's 28 years old. Yep. And people are already a little hesitant. So that DJ Moore comment just made me think of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's actually got someone DM me. The amount of DMs I'm getting over trades now is crazy. But I got a DM over AJ Brown, and I'm like, no, I take AJ Brown on that deal. And then I got it's a run first offense, and he's getting older. I'm like, dude, AJ Brown is like a top 5 NFL wide receiver talent. Like, you don't just pass on that stuff. But anyways, back to DJ Moore. But DJ Moore isn't an AJ Brown. He's not that kind of wide receiver. He's close, but he's not there. And so I think that how we're going to react value-wise, the second DJ Moore doesn't produce, that value is dropping like Cooper Kupp's did. Like, he just doesn't have that build in, whatever it is, whatever we want to call it in Dynasty, to where people's value can hold up for a little bit longer when they're not producing. To me, DJ Moore doesn't have that. I think being on the Bears could do it a little bit, because everyone, kind of frowns on them, even though we're happy with them, but it is the Bears. And so I can't find a reason to buy into him as wide receiver 27. I can't pay that price for him.
He is in that range where I think you could get a George Pickens plus, maybe.
Yeah.
Instead of,
and I'd rather have
DJ Moore. I have them in the same tier, but DJ Moore right above Jalen Waddle. I would take Jalen Waddle given the choice.
Agreed.
So it's always interesting, because you get to these middle range wide receivers, and if their production slips at all, like if he was at 14 points per game last year, if he goes down to 12 and a half, that's so easily replicated.
Yeah,
you can replace that so easily. And if he was in your flex, you can do it cross positionally. But I certainly get the concern. But I will say, the whole body language thing, all this stuff, all this noise coming out, I think it's exactly that noise. Mm-hmm. I'm not worried about that. But everything else we've talked about, because again, DJ Moore's come up on multiple discussions over the last couple months. It is, something to think about. Now, I do think the coach speak and all this stuff, I think it's going to drop his price enough where I'm going to start thinking, oh, now I'm looking to acquire.
Yeah. I mean, if that price drops and all of a sudden he's wide receiver 35, then okay, I'll do it. I can't at his price right now.
Yeah. And maybe it's still at the point where people are really, crazy for rookies and you can get something done. Especially, I always say, if a team is headed towards a rebuild and they're looking to get DJ Moore off their team. Mitch, this is a little bit longer episode.
Yep. It's been a while for us, though.
It's been a while. I missed you. I missed your voice. I missed your aura, like just everything, your presence. I missed it. You got that sun-kissed tan, just wonderful. You look so refreshed.
Hey, I appreciate it. I missed you too, like a lot. I do want to say something before we get out of here, though, okay? And for anyone in the audience who is listening after 42 minutes, if there is a topic that you want us to discuss, please post it, because we could do shows like this about news, some changing values and that sort of thing. But there is something you actually want us to hit on going into the season. Please let us know, and we'll make sure to do a show topic on it. I mean, we've had a lot of shows already just from one comment saying like, hey, what do you guys think about this? And if you want us to do a show on that, we're more than happy to do that.
Especially if it is a more data-driven show where I got to dig in and look at historical information. That gets me going in a good way, guys. So thanks for bearing with us. Longer episode this week, and apologies for no episode of Dynasty Theory, but we will be back on Monday with Dan at our normal time, 9 p.m. Eastern time. Hopefully you all enjoy the show. Hit the like button, hit subscribe, check out ddfantasyfootball.com. For Mitch Sorensen, I'm John Bauer. We'll catch everybody next week. Peace.